Mr. President of the UNGA, Mr. Secretary General, Mr. Chairman, heads of states and governments, ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to join the previous speakers in conveying to the government and people of India my thoughts and prayers following the recent act of terrorism and violence which has inflicted so much pain and grief to innocent people. In times of uncertainty such as these, leadership is essential. As leaders, we are gathered in Doha to find the solutions which will allow us to move forward. We cannot content ourselves with platitudes. We must be able to put forward solutions for our peoples. We must be able to direct our goodwill into concrete solutions. As leaders, we all have a global responsibility. Sometimes, when we get rich, we forget about the less fortunate. We forget that prosperity is not something that just happens when the right conditions are in place. Prosperity has to be nurtured and shared. In this conference, we have to devise new ways by which future prosperity can be shared for the benefit of all. The meltdown of the global financial markets have left many countries reeling. The collapse of the housing market, banks, and the currency of a few countries reflect how deeply entrenched the crisis is. Throughout this year, I have traveled to Rome, to Tokyo, to New York, to highlight the issues we small island states face. I called for action. I pleaded for less hypocrisy. I pleaded that we move away from reams of resolutions to concrete actions and swift implementation of decisions. I pleaded for more justice and fairness, because I believe that small islands can be the barometers of the world, even if we are rarely on the front pages. Whether we are talking about commodity prices, food security, energy issues, small islands feel it first. And while cutting interest rates or providing corporate bailouts may provide acceptable fixes for large economies in the short term, they cannot make the current international financing system sustainable. In recent years, the concept of sustainable development have been high on the international agenda. But under current conditions, the international financing sustainable development will remain only a myth. From the perspective of a small island state, the current negative situation in terms of the international economy poses a challenge towards the concept of development itself. Development implies progress. The concept of development means that every state aspires to a better tomorrow. Improved education, better healthcare, and eradication of poverty. In Seychelles, we are proud of our achievements in terms of being able to provide free, universal education and primary health care. But we are now faced with a development paradox, a middle-income trap. There are many small and medium countries in similar situation that have effectively used development financing in the past and now find themselves asking, where to now? As they watch their achievements being eroded by unfair principles and unfair practices. We aspire to further develop our economies and diversify. However, the constraints in the global context are evident. Small island developing states and middle-income countries are not eligible for most forms of grants and concessionary funding. But we are often the ones that are most vulnerable to shocks. We are most often the countries that are most reliant on imports, and we are the ones with the least room to maneuver through economies of scale. But we are determined to look forward and not back. We are determined that we should be able to rise to the challenges before us. Seychelles, a small island state with a population of 85,000, has recently entered into a standby arrangement with the International Monetary Fund, as have many other countries. I would like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation to all our friends who are supporting us through this process. We are making the necessary fiscal and macroeconomic adjustments to ensure that we emerge